Okay, in this video we'll just look at some examples with of in it, and remember that of means multiply, so we'll do these examples. Then we'll look at when you're given a number and you've got to square it, what do you do? Then we'll look at some distributive property examples with fractions, these three examples. And so let's start with when you've got find 2/3 of 36. Now you might remember that of means multiply. Of course you can try and do that in your head. I mean, what do you think 1/3 of 36 would be? 1/3 of 36? 36 divided is it 12, right? So 2/3 would be 24. Anyway, but we can calculate that a little bit easier with math, because if of means multiply, then 2/3 of 36 becomes 2/3 multiplied by 36, right? And can you write 36 as a fraction? Well, let's do it now. 36 over 1, right? And it's kind of nice to cross cancel first before you multiply, because it kind of simplifies things a bit. So doesn't 3 go into 36? So what about 3 into 3 goes once? Look at this. 3 into 3 goes how many times? Once. 3 into 6? Twice, right? So this gives us 2 times 12. 24 over 1 times 1 is 1, and what does that give? 24 divided by 1 is 24, right? Okay, how about this guy? What is 2/5 of the sum of 8 and 12? The sum of 8 and 12, what's that? Have you ever heard of that? The sum of something is when you add, okay? So the sum of 8 and 12 is in fact 8 plus 12. And just to be a little bit theoretical, 2/5 of this would be 2/5 times that. And you can't just, like, to completely times it by the sum, you would have to put parentheses around that. You see what I mean? Because the sum of 8 and 12 is 20, you see, and we should be getting 2/5 of 20. 2/5 times 20, right? So anyway, the of there turned into multiply. So anyway, 2/5 times 20. Turn 20 into a fraction. 20 over 1, right? Now multiply and cross cancel, then multiply. See what happens. 5 into 5 goes once. 5 into 20 goes 4 times. So that gives us 8 over 1, which is 8, right? How about this guy? 4/5 of 1/4 of 55. There's 2 ofs in there. And to turn that directly into math, here's what you do. You'll probably guess it. 4/5 times 1/4. Because 4/5 of a quarter is 4/5 times a quarter. And then this of, 55 is times that by 55. The other thing is, you might want to turn 55 into a fraction. Turn 55 into a fraction. 55 over 1, right? Now cross cancel common factors, see what happens. If you cross cancel common factors, how about the 4s? Are they a 4 in the top, 4 in the bottom? See that? So 4 into 4 goes once. 4 into 4 goes once. How about, what else have we got? 5 and 55. 5 into 5 goes once. 5 into 55. 11, isn't it? So we get 1 times 1 times 11. That's 11. Over 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. And 11 over 1 is 11. Alright. So let's have a look at what do you do if they say, okay, the number x is this column, and then what's the square x squared? Well, first of all, you just start with one number at a time, so you don't get too confused. Because look, what they're saying is, if the number is 2, what's the square? Well, the square root of that is 2 squared, right? Simple as that. You just put a squared on it. You can put it in parentheses if you want to. That doesn't matter. 2 squared then, of course, is 4, right? And you calculate that. Oh, sorry, I should have written that out, because it's 2 times 2, isn't it? 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4. Okay, then we go to 3. What's the square of 3? Well, it's 3 to the power of 2, right? And that gives us 3 times 3, which is 9. Okay, get the square root of 4 now. X is 4. What's x squared? Isn't it 4 squared? Yep. Which is 4 times 4, which is 16. Okay. How about these guys? A half, a third, and a quarter. Well, let's just start with one at a time. Start with a half. If the number is a half, what's the square, or x squared? Well, it is whatever that number is, and I'm going to use parentheses, whatever that number is squared. So you just take a half and you square it. And we did these already. If you square a half, the square is on the parentheses, so that's parenthesis times parenthesis. In other words, 1/2 times 1/2, which is, multiply the tops, 1, multiply the bottoms, 4, 1/4, right? How about a third? 1/3, and then we've got to get 1/3 squared, don't we? So 1/3 squared is 1/3 times a third, right? I'll calculate that and then try the quarter. So 1/3 times a third. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 3 is 9. How about a quarter? Can you do that one by yourself? One quarter, if I square that guy, we'll be getting a quarter of a quarter. That's going to be a small number, isn't it? 1/4 times a quarter, 1/4 of a quarter. Give me a quarter of a quarter. Well, here's a quarter. If I ask for a quarter of a quarter, it's not much money, is it? That's not even a whole cent amount. It's 1/16 of a dollar. Okay. That's it's about 6 1/4 cents is what it is. But anyway, this thing to notice, of course, one of the things you can notice about this is, look, when you've got a fraction like a quarter, and you square it, you get a smaller number, don't you? You see, if you've got a third and you square it, a ninth is smaller. If you take a half and square it, you get a quarter, and that's smaller than the half. But when you've got these numbers that start with these numbers that are bigger than 1, like 2, if you square 2 you get 4, if you square 3 you get 9, that's more. If you square 4 you get 16, that's more. So squared fractions become less and squared whole numbers become more. Do you see that? Alrighty, and now we'll just look at the distributive property with fractions. Let's go to quickly review the distributive property. If you have 2 times 4 plus 6, you might want to just use PEMDAS, because PEMDAS, the order of operations says you've got to do the parentheses first. Sorry, you've got to do parentheses first. So you're going to add inside there and you get 2 times 10, right? Obviously, 2 times 10 is 20. So that's one way of doing it. The distributive property says, if you want, you can multiply the 2 in against this number and then this number. So you can get 2 times 4 plus 2 times 6. Okay. And 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 6 is... start again. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 6 is 12. And 8 and 12 gives... It's the same thing, isn't it? Right? So the distributive property does indeed work, where you take this number and multiply it by everything inside there. Okay. Another quick way to look at it is, if you had a bag, okay, and inside the bag there was an apple and a banana. Okay, that's a bag with an apple and a banana in there. If somebody put the number 10 outside here, what are they trying to communicate? See, it's kind of like... let me draw you a picture. It's kind of like, here's a bag, here's an apple, here's a banana, okay? And if somebody comes along and writes the number 10 there, right beside the bag, what are they trying to say? Are they trying to say there's 10 bags? Right? 10 bags. And so that means there's going to be 10 apples plus 10 bananas. Does that make sense? Yep. So if I was doing 10 times A plus B, I could take this 10 and multiply it in here and here, and I get 10A plus 10B. 10 apples and 10 bananas. Anyway, that's it. The distributive property. So if I had 4 times this thing, the 4 is touching the parentheses. So I've got to multiply the 4 times this and then times this. Okay. Now 4 times 3, hey, that's 12. Let's just write that down. But then I've got, so I've done the 4 times 3. Then I'm going to do 4 times 3/4, right? So I get 4 times 3 is 12, and then 4 times that is that. And now I'm going to calculate this. Now hold on a second. Can you write 4 as a fraction? 4 as a fraction is 4 over 1, right? Can you cross cancel common factors? Yes, indeed. 4 and a 4 goes once, 4 and a 4 goes once. So you've got, this is 12, and then it's minus, and then you've got, see, you're following the order of operations, PEMDAS, so you're multiplying here, see. 1 times 3 is 3 over 1 times 1. I guess you could write 3 over 1, which is just 3, isn't it? So it's 12 minus 3, and the answer, of course, is 12 minus 3, the answer, of course, is 9, right? Now this example, 18 times this guy, we've got to use the distributive property. So I'm going to multiply 18 in here and here. So I'll get 18 times 2/3 minus 18 times 1/9. Now, what I'd like you to do, I guess, is write 18 as a fraction. At this step, the next step, write 18 as a fraction. How about 18 over 1? See that? In both places. And then cross cancel common factors. Right? So there's, what about this? 3 into 3 goes once, 3 into 18 goes 6 times, right? So you get 6 times 2, 12, over 1 times 1 is 1. How about this guy? That's, of course, 12, isn't it? 12 over 1 is just 12. So 12 minus what? Well, let's see. 9 into 9 goes once. 9 into 18 goes 2 times. So we get 2 times 1, which is 2, over 1 times 1, which is 1. So you just get, 12 minus 2, which is 12 minus 2, 10. Right? So this thing becomes 10.